All right, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Football for Thought. This is episode 3, and we missed last week, but I thought what better than to bring double the fun with my dear friend, co-host over here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is FreddieLove. I'm super excited to be here on Football for Thought, and I cannot wait to share my opinions with my dear friend Tyler.
Yeah, so today we're going to go into the normal stuff. We got some XFL, we got some NFL, and, without further ado, we're going to dive right on in.
Get it!
So we're starting off with the first XFL game on Saturday night. It is the Seattle Sea Dragons versus the Vegas Vipers, and it automatically starts off with the Vegas Vipers dominating. Vic Beasley automatically in the first drive gets a fumble, and the Vipers are looking a lot smoother on offense. Brett Hundley scrambles out the pocket, getting a touchdown on his first start of the game. And ever since then, the Vipers just keep on dominating. But Ben DiNucci's not counted out. Him and Josh Gordon keep making connections over and over, ending up topping them 30-26. Seattle Sea Dragons finally getting their first win of the season. Go ahead and take it away, Kev.
Thanks, Tyler. We make our way down to Arlington, Texas, where the boots are high, but the points are not. It was a low-scoring affair down in the Lone Star, with the Arlington Renegades barely sneaking one out past the 0-3 Orlando Guardians. Paxton Lynch was named starter for this game, hoping to avenge his shoddy performance from Week 2. Not gonna lie, Lynch made some decent throws and had some really nice drives going. He threw for 219 yards and rushed for 43 more. On paper, that's a pretty solid game. Unfortunately, Paxton Lynch and the Guardians are like me after I come home from the bar and just can't finish. But one of the major reasons Guardians couldn't complete any drives was because of 2 costly fumbles coughed up by Jermaine Carter. Come on, man. On the other side of the ball, Coach Buckley tries to rally his team together after essentially roasting every member last week at the post-game press conference, where he stated, "I got guys out there not competing, not making plays." Well, he better buckle up because this week wasn't any different. We saw the XFL debut of Kyle Slaughter, who was drafted by the Denver Broncos in 2017. His debut wasn't anything to call home about. He did complete 18 of 23 passes, but only for 125 yards. Slaughter really couldn't put together any decent drives, but did throw a late-game strike to Tyler Vaughns to seal the game and start the XFL debut 1-0. All right, and let's keep it in the Lone Star State, and I'll pass it on to Tyler for the Roughnecks game.
Roughnecks game is nailing it right on the coffin because that's what type of game it was. San Antonio started off great with a return, almost getting the first touchdown of the XFL season, but Houston goes and gets 22 unanswered points. Brandon Silver is going nuts, going to my boy from LSU, Jontre Kirkland, getting 2 touchdowns in the first half alone, and it just seemed like the Roughnecks were dominating constantly, over and over. San Antonio could not answer, but they go ahead and answer after the half, shutting the Roughnecks out to not score a single point. San Antonio almost comes back, scoring a touchdown of their own, but stood up on the goal line. They cannot do anything. Roughnecks end up winning it 22-13. Roughnecks still undefeated, never losing a single time in franchise history, even going back to 2020. They are just dominating this league and will continue to do so unless someone has an answer to stop them. And speaking of an answer to stop them, I'm going to throw it over to my boy FreddieLove to talk about the battle of 2 undefeated teams.
And what a game it was, Tyler. Now we're up in D.C. to go visit old Sleepy Joe, where we see a battle of 2 of the most elite offenses in the XFL. A.J. McCarron and the St. Louis Battlehawks versus Jordan Ta'amu and the D.C. Defenders. Ta'amu and the Hawks came out swinging with an absolute missile down the sideline for a 57-yard gain to Chris Blair, followed up by a 7-yard strike to Ethan Wolf. A.J. McCarron unfortunately couldn't answer back as he's picked off by the Grim Reaper himself, Michael Joseph, who returns it to the house for his 2nd pick 6 and 3rd pick of the season. But never count out Nick Saban's greatest creation, A.J. McCarron. McCarron rips it down the field in the Crimson Tide fashion to bring the Battlehawks back in the game. I hated myself for saying that. Go Tigers. This was by far the most exciting XFL game so far and really showed the elite level of offensive football. When all was said and done, A.J. McCarron threw for 262 yards with 4 touchdowns with 2 interceptions, while Jordan Ta'amu completed 196 and 1 touchdown, beating the Battlehawks 34-28, improving to 3-0 at home in front of the Liberty Bell. And that wraps it up for the game scores and highlights. Well, let's talk about them.
So, Kevin, since you're here, I wanted to hear your thoughts, your opinions on the XFL, and do you think it will last this time? Being that, you haven't been researching much at all about this. I kind of just got you into it. So I want to know from an outsider's point of view, what exactly do you think of the XFL?
Well, yeah, Tyler, this was pretty much my first week really diving headfirst into like the XFL and like really watching all the games and the highlights from beginning to end. Um, it was pretty exciting. I mean, that DC Defenders game was a high level scoring game, and I think it had a lot of good plays. Um, I think it gives a great opportunity for a lot of these players. So I think it's a beautiful league as well. I think it can last. It has a bunch of backing. You got the Rock and the Horns. I mean, you got the Brahmas. I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be here for a long time, Tyler.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It seems like not only with his personality, but with Danny Garcia just kind of being the chairwoman, making the helm, there's not as much advertising as there should be, but a lot of people know about this. Players know about it. Players want to get in it. Like Dwayne Johnson says, they are player 54, and really it just all works out very well to give everyone a second chance. And it's week 3. It's already been a uh, huge plays, but this week has shown that the rust has fallen off and football is ready to play. So I think it's going to be going really well. But wrapping up the XFL, we finally have some NFL news. So me and Kev are going to jump straight into that NFL news. Talking about something new, they have team report cards, and I think it's a great touch. I think I'm very glad the NFLPA let those out, and we're just going to go ahead and break those down.
I'm surprised they even did it.
And before we dive in, we might as well go ahead and explain the team report cards. They're basically grading every single thing that makes the team, down from the facilities to the weight room to even the nutrition and how they treat the teammates' families. So we go ahead and jump straight in. The top of the 32 teams at number 1 is the Minnesota Vikings, very interestingly enough. And then you go to number 2 with the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to jump all the way down to the bottom to who do we got there?
Well, you got at 31st, you got the Arizona Cardinals, and then naturally at 32nd, last place is going to be the Commanders.
You're saying naturally, what shocked you the most on this list from 1 through 32? All these teams, what team shocked you the most at where they stand on this list?
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Aside from the Minnesota Vikings, who are number one, I mean that's a pretty big shocker for us all. The Cardinals kind of surprised me because I thought that they would be doing pretty well. You know, they got a pretty good market over there. Everyone wants to go to Phoenix, Arizona. They got a pretty good team going. They have basically the intangibles to be a good team, but they're not eating right. I mean, they ranked in the last four in nutrition and basically anything that has to do with eating. So that was a pretty big shocker for me.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. See, in like you mentioned, Minnesota, that's probably the one that shocked me the most. At number 1, Minnesota not being the biggest market at all, very small market, and them not really being much in playoff contention because they're with the Green Bay Packers. I wouldn't think their facilities, their weight room, their nutrition, everything would be where it's at, but it ranks A on the board, if not A plus for every single thing. It's very surprising to me, very, very surprising. Miami, I understand everybody wants to go there. I understand that number 2.
I would go there.
But yeah, but the Vikings surprised me. But I do gotta ask, because like you said, it's very surprising. Do you think they should continue these team report cards? What do you feel about them? Because I like them a lot.
I loved it. I loved every second of it. I mean, as soon as they released it, I jumped on it immediately because I've never seen anything like that before in my life. But it does give the fans kind of a glimpse of what the players are going through in their everyday lives and what they have to deal with. And whenever they ask for more money, now we kind of understand. So I would love to see these every year, honestly.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Was it puts more insight to what you know? Because yeah, we see the players on the field, but we don't know much about them off the field and how they're even treated. So I do like this, especially us talking about the XFL. We get an insight into the locker room and half. We get mics on 24/7. I think the team report cards are a good answer, kind of to the NFL, but the NFL, or sorry, the good answer to the XFL, but the NFL trying to reach out to fans not only as well as the players. I like it a lot. But with those report cards under wrap, we're going to go to the NFL Combine, and it was a good one this year. It was a really big one. So Kevin, let's go ahead and jump into that.
Get into it, my friend.
First off, I do want to go ahead and congratulate every player that was invited to the Combine. We already know they're athletes on the field, but this got to show their abilities and their measurements off the field without any pressure. They got to relax and let loose and show what they can do. Honestly, it was a really good combine. You got to see players go up. You did see some go down, but everyone performed to their best, and I really enjoyed watching this year. It was a very good class, not only for just quarterbacks, but running backs, tight ends, edge rushers, even D tackles. It was a really good combine.
Yeah, no, I agree, Tyler. I mean, it's every little kid's dream to make it to the draft. So even if their football career ends here, they should be proud of themselves for making it, and a big congratulations to all of those gentlemen.
Yeah, they had a good bit of people show out, even not well named people, like a guy that me and you actually played on the field against, Lindsey Scott Jr., who went to Incarnate World, and it was probably his dream to make it to the combine. If he gets drafted, he does. If he's undrafted, he is. But either way, they got invited, and it's a great opportunity to play on that field in front of all these scouts and people.
Yeah, no, very true. And I mean, for those of you that don't know Lindsey Scott, he was an absolute D2, D1 monster. I mean, you might not have heard of his name, but the kid is throwing 300 to 450 yards a game. Incarnate World really picked a good one on him.
He took the world by storm.
He
Yeah,
took the Incarnate World
yeah.
by storm.
But speaking of people who took it by storm, I think we should talk about the big gator in the room, AR-15, lit up
The Gator himself.
lit up that combine. I don't know why no one saw what I've seen. I don't know if you saw it. I saw Anthony Richardson play, and I thought he was fantastic. Yes, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he's a freak of an athlete. He's Cam Newton, little higher, honestly. So after the mind-blowing combine, what are your thoughts on AR-15? He was nowhere in the top 5. I'm looking. We had C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker, Will Levis, Tanner McKee from Stanford. AR-15 was nowhere on that list.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a glimpse of it. I mean, if you saw him play at all when he was in Florida, especially in the LSU game, the guy was burning our DBs. I mean, it's sad to say it, but I mean, you definitely saw 4.3 speed when he was on the field, maybe even 4.2 if somebody's behind him, you know. The guy's impressive. His vertical leap, I mean, he could switch. He could be like a Taysom Hill, honestly. That's the way I see him. He's dual threat all over the field. He could go both sides. The kid's just an athlete. He's a monster.
So let me ask you, because he wasn't on that top 5, do you think this draft made this combine made his draft stock fly up to maybe be in the late first round, if not second?
I mean, you're insane to say no. He definitely is number one, if not number two, because I mean, Bryce Young didn't test on anything, but he's 5'9", 208. I don't think he's 208 when he's playing. I think he's 208 soaking wet.
Yeah.
So I think they're being pretty generous with that. So I think if Bryce Young tests and probably runs a 4.5, 4.6, has pretty solid throws, I think AR-15 beats him. Just a solid day all around.
I do agree. And while we're at the SEC East, can we talk about Will Levis? I think he performed really well, just in every aspect. He did mess up a little bit with his throws, but he clocked in at 55 miles per hour, throwing faster than Patrick Mahomes, almost tying Josh Allen. Like he was throwing some bombs.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that absolute missile to Hyatt. Unfortunately, Hyatt dropped it. Yeah, he was throwing absolute rockets. He had a nice flick when it was coming out of his hand. He was RPMs were insane. I'm very excited to see where Will Levis goes.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
Now, let me stop you a minute, though, Tyler. Let's talk about some great defensive players that showed up today, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, the national champions. I mean, Nolan Smith, absolute freak, right?
Yeah, Nolan Smith just showed. He's already shown on the field in the championship that even before the championship, he is a monster on the field. But he just went nuts at the combine, running the 4.3. He went crazy in the broad jump, crazy in the vertical. Nolan Smith automatically draft stock went up. A lot of people were looking at him, but now they're wanting to pick him. They're looking at him hard. He showed out very well at the combine.
Yeah, and I mean, quite on the opposite side, especially on the opposite side of the football as well for the Georgia Bulldogs. You had the lawyer uncle at the barbecue, Stenson Bennett, just lollygagging there. I mean, it depends on who you ask. I think to some he had a pretty good combine day. But in my opinion, I think he could have done a little better. I think he clocked in at a 4.67. He definitely could have ran a 4.5. I mean, he pulled up at the end, in my opinion. He did let it rip. He let a couple balls fly. I think he really could have showed more, though, in my opinion, Tyler.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you. I don't know what his mindset is. Of course, I can't speak for him, but he probably thinks I put everything on the field. I don't even know he was going to appear at the combine. I honestly thought he was going straight to law school. We know he can ball out. We know he can throw them bombs. He won the championship. He was a walk on. That's what's the craziest part. And the fact that he's at the NFL combine achieving his dream, amazing. But I do believe he could have performed a little bit more. But hey, while we're talking about Georgia, let's talk about a guy that was not the first tight end going into this drive. I can tell you that right now. It was Michael Mayer. But Darnell Washington blew us away. He just lit up the combine. He just automatically in the 40, in the vertical, every single thing. Yes, we know he's good on the field, but he just went nuts. What about his blocking?
I mean, I saw him push the sled at least 35 yards. The kid's an absolute freak of an athlete. I think he's definitely going to go first in tight ends. I mean, that's a dead giveaway. So I look forward to see what team will take him.
Yeah, I definitely think that, you need a speed tight end in this league, but not only that, you need someone that can block for you. You need someone that can block, but also take off and catch some passes down the field. I think Darnell went up in the draft tremendously. This combine was huge. This was a big combine, but you know what's probably the biggest part of the combine? I would say it's Rich Eisen running the 40. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Let's talk about the smoothest 40 there.
As the annual Run Rich Run goes, it is a donation to St. Jude charity, and I love that Rich does this. We already have tons of people tuning into the combine, but of course now we have a bunch donating to St. Jude, which I think is wonderful. I think is really good.
No, I agree, Tyler. It's a beautiful thing that he does. I mean, even though he ran a 5.98 and I can make a sandwich a little quicker than he can run a 40, I think everyone should donate every single year. It's for a beautiful cause. Save the children.
Yeah,
Save the children, guys.
and I think it's also, of course, we get to see a grown man who's not an athlete running a 40, like you said, a 5.9. I think the best part is when they do the simulations of other players running, and they're just running past him. He's giving them 12-yard head starts, and they're just running right past him. So I think it's a beautiful add-on to the combine.
Yeah, he's. I mean, AR-15, give him a 10-yard head start, and Rich is still not beating him. I mean,
Yeah, you had Sauce Gardner just like laughing him basically. It was just great. But that's about it with the combine, but not it with the NFL. Netflix has now announced that they are coming out with a docuseries about some NFL quarterbacks. And we have Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. I know you're a quarterback guy. Are you excited to see this?
I'm absolutely tickled pink that it's coming out. I mean, I'm super excited. I'm stoked. I'm a huge quarterback fan. I'm a huge Marcus Mariota fan ever since he was an Oregon Duck, playing all the way back with Jameis Winston in the first national champions that in college that ever came out. So I'm excited to see, behind the scenes of the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the Super Bowl winning champions, the Chiefs and Patty Mahomes. You get to see behind the scenes of that. It should be a good show. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, you nailed it perfectly. We have the Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes, but we also have Kirk Cousins, who had probably his best year ever this year, but then started to fall off later in the year. And then you have Marcus Mariota, who ended up getting benched and leaving the team. So I think it's going to be a good narrative of three different types of quarterbacks. Not only do you have the guy that just constantly does amazing stuff with Patrick Mahomes, but you have a guy who's doing amazing but facing adversity. Then you have a guy who just everything hit the fan too soon. It was basically his last chance, and he got benched once again. So I think it's gonna be a great story with following these three quarterbacks. I'm very excited to see this.
I mean, I will say this, Tyler. I know that Kirk Cousins will see him with amazing facilities, and we will see Patrick Mahomes with horrible facilities.
Yes, we will because they ranked 29.
29, baby.
29 Super Bowl champions ranked 29. All right, I think that about wraps it up for episode 3 of Football for Thought. I enjoyed having my co-host FreddieLove here. It was very enjoyable for me to do this. Also, having a different opinion on stuff, go ahead and banter. So, hope you guys did as well. Did you have anything left to say?
No, I appreciate you having me on, Tyler. If you ever want me back, I will look forward to doing this 100 times for you. And all I got to say is, we'll catch you in the end zone.